all have just acknowledged is exactly why we are here. And so trauma isn't just in conflict zones or in disasters. So it shows up in silence, in broken systems, in interviews, and yes, even in us. So we all as journalists walk a tightrope and, telling difficult stories and difficult truths, and while carrying the weight of those truths.
You have to understand that you are very much vulnerable for moral injury. Okay, so what's moral injury? It's a trauma-related syndrome which is caused by grievous moral transgressions or violations to individuals' deeply held moral beliefs and ethical standards.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome today. We are all here for a conversation that sits at the very heart of journalism, not just truth-telling, but truth-telling with humanity. So our session, Trauma-Informed Reporting and Self-Care for Journalists, will be guided by Dr. Aijaz Bhat, whose work and wisdom reminds us that the stories we always chase meet real lives, real wounds, and real people. Before I introduce him, let's start with a quick check-in. So maybe we all can take a moment and close our eyes. And if you're comfortable, think of a story you have covered or read that stayed with you long after the headline faded. So you don't need to exactly share the details, just name the emotions that lingers with you in the chat box. Maybe you can just say it was heaviness, anger, guilt, empathy, or maybe pride. So let's do it quickly for a few minutes. So we can see all these emotions. Someone is saying feeling fed up, mental pressure, helplessness, disgust, anger, exhaustion, anxiety, and feeling like always behind time. Okay. So now, if you feel comfortable, so let's do a simple raise of hand poll. Like, who has ever left an assignment feeling emotionally drained? And also, who has ever struggled with the question of whether a detail in a story might harm the person it's about? So you can again raise the hand for both these questions. If you want to answer both of these questions or whatever you feel comfortable with, just do a simple raise of hand, Paul. And also, like, who has ever struggled with the question of whether a detail in a story might harm the person it's about? I'm also going to repeat the first question, like, who has ever left an assignment feeling emotionally drained? So what we all have just acknowledged is exactly why we are here. And so trauma isn't just in conflict zones or in disasters. So it shows up in silence, in broken systems, in interviews, and yes, even in us. So we all as journalists walk a tightrope and, telling difficult stories and difficult truths, and while carrying the weight of those truths. So Dr. Aijaz Bhat, who joins us today, specializes in helping professionals like us navigate that tightrope, like balancing responsibility to our sources, our readers, and ourselves. So under his guidance, the training will give us tools, not just to report with sensitivity, but also to care ourselves for ourselves in the process. So because here the core question of our time together is how we can tell the stories of trauma without being the trauma ourselves. Over to you, Dr. Aijaz.
Thank you very much, Aliya ji. A very good morning to all of you.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Aijaz. You all can, whosoever is comfortable, can turn on the camera so that we all can see each other. So all depends on your comfort level. Yeah, please. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so good morning, Adab, Assalamu alaikum. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, and thank you very much, Aliya ji, for inviting me to this session. I hope it's going to be exciting, and we are going to have a lot of exchange of information so that I also learn from you and you learn something from me. So I would love to be very interactive rather than delivering, from one side. So yeah, it's also better in virtual mode if we keep our cameras on so that keeps my motivation as well. So yeah, welcome on board. Welcome to the world of mental health. Imagine you coming back to home or going somewhere and you meeting an accident, okay? You are shivering. You feel like as if I am hit, but you are really not hit. When you're out of the car and you come inside, you meet somebody and you feel like, oh, I have met an accident, and the other person checks on you and says, well, you are fine, everything is okay. This is something which happens with you when you are covering the trauma, when you are going to the place which is vulnerable, which is very volatile, and you come back. So you are meeting these little accidents every day, and if nobody is checking on you, you're not able to offload yourself. This is what is accumulating every time. Okay, so imagine yourself in that situation. Well, today's session is going to be about trauma-informed journalism. That means how much you must be informed about the people, the situation, the event which you are going to cover, and how you can take care of yourself. So it is basically covering both the perspectives. One is the perspective of you being as journalist and interviewing someone, how to take care of his, his condition, or how to keep all the confidentiality, but at the same time be objective. So yeah, well, as you could see that most of my work has been in the international humanitarian sector, be it MSF Poland or International Committee of Red Cross Geneva. More than a decade-long experience. In addition to that, I have been in the West, where I had a fellowship with International Institute of Education, and I am also the professional life member of Indian Association of Clinical Psychology. So most of my work has been in the community with the people, and also as a clinician while working with people on one-to-one basis. When we talk about trauma, so we can say that your work is something when people run away, you are running into the violent, traumatic, and life-threatening situation. So it is altogether different. It's opposite. So people are running for their life, but you are running towards the situation, towards the event. So that's how I perceive your work. And it has been seen globally that lifetime post-traumatic stress disorder, if we talk about statistics, among journalists is 28.6%. That is much bigger than the general population. And lifetime depression is 21.4%. And you, as journalists, are not only journalists, you are the first responders as well. You are eyewitness to violent events, okay? And you're not prepared to resolve or intervene into the situation because you are going with a different intention. You are going to cover the story and bring the facts, okay? And if a journalist has previous mental health conditions, which doubles or increase the impact of the situation on you, and it is more for combat journalists, they are at more risk than the other journalists, but overall, all the journalists are at risk. So we have to understand that. And if we talk about the last year, 2024, this is the statistics. This slide I have taken from Dr. Paul, which, there was a presentation which was basically presented in the 8th annual Philadelphia Trauma Training Conference. So Dr. Paul is a connection on LinkedIn. So he shared his presentation with me. So I'm thankful to him. This slide I have taken from his presentation. So here you can see that how many journalists were killed only in 2024. So 104 journalists and media workers killed in 2024, 12 women, 92 men. So 60% of them were killed as the result of Gaza war. So Europe 4, America 6, Africa 8, Middle East and Arab world 66, Asia and the Pacific 20. So this can give you an idea how much vulnerable the journalists are, okay, or the journalist population, how much it is difficult for them to survive and bring the facts to the people in conflict zones. So when we talk about trauma in journalism, work-related trauma in journalism is common, and some studies indicate 80 to 90% have been exposed to traumatic events, okay? Like mass casualties, natural disasters, war, violence, crime scenes, murder cases, etc. So there can be many situations. All the exposure may lead to sleeplessness, flashbacks, anxiety, depression, and in extreme cases, post-traumatic stress disorder. So constant exposure affects all stages of the reporting cycle from gathering to consumption. Here is one of the slide again from the Dr. Paul's presentation, and there's a verbatim from a journalist. I needed to stay in professional stoic mode to survive. I needed not to think, just to carry on. That was the safest thing to do. I sat there all night and well into the morning, call after call after call. Yes, I will do it. Yes, live in 10 seconds. Okay. The same story over and over and over again. I was in shock. I felt like a robot, like my brain and my mouth were totally unconnected, that I was distant, disconnected from life somehow. This is the, this is the first-hand experience of a journalist, okay, who has been covering such stories. There are certain special considerations as well when we talk about the personal history of the journalist. Depending on personal history, journalists may have special sensitivity and vulnerability to traumatic reactions. So you have to understand and sensitize yourself and analyze if there are any personal issues already you are going through, or if there is a personal mental health condition, you are more vulnerable. Photojournalists, they face greater pressure about intervening in the situation than only clicking the picture. Journalists in the global south, if we talk about journalists in the global south, they are more vulnerable due to many armed conflicts, although all journalists are vulnerable. So in general, but if we talk about the global south, there are armed conflicts going on, and that may impact the journalists. When we see the overall risk in journalism, there are personal risks, there are social, political, and family risks as well. When we talk about the personal risks, we talk about physical risk. Physically, you there's a potential to get hurt. Okay, as you said, the statistics in 2024. There are psychological risks. Personally, to the journalists, there are moral risks, or we can say the moral injury. Family risks are also involved. Okay, if you are a local journalist and you are covering the sensitive stories and you are going into the situation. So occupational risks are also there, and political risks as well. So you are basically going through whole cycle as a journalist. So there are types of trauma a journalist can go through. One is primary trauma, direct target of violence. Okay, be it any kind of situation. Okay, when you go into the situation, you are very much vulnerable than other people. Okay, they may have safeguards, they may have some protection, but if we talk about the freelancers, they are more vulnerable when we talk about them. Sorry, give me a second because I am in a child center, so let me see, there is a background noise coming. I'll come back. Okay, thank you. So when we talk about types of trauma, it's primary and it is secondary. When you talk about secondary trauma, you may have heard about vicarious traumatization through vivid images, narrative accounts of suffering and pain, compassion fatigue, which leads to secondary trauma. So one is direct trauma and another one is secondary trauma or vicarious trauma. And also, you have exposure to digital content like user-generated graphic material, which contributes to secondary trauma for any journalist. When we talk about the mental health impact, it is huge. Okay, it has been seen in many studies. There is a great, mental health impact on journalists. There is chronic stress. It has been seen generally in many, in a big percentage of journalists. Anxiety, depression, burnout. Okay, and there is PTSD among journalists, which we can say, mota re-experiencing avoidance, sense of threat all the time. So that means if these symptoms, are there more than a month or 2 months, that means we can say that a therapist can diagnose you with PTSD. Then there is another term which is called complex PTSD, complex post-trauma stress disorder. So you have already the above symptoms of PTSD. There are additional symptoms or additional signs. For example, you have addition of interpersonal disturbances. So there is a problem with interpersonal relationships, emotional dysregulation. You're not able to regulate your emotions in the situations where they need to be regulated, and negative self-concept. You start telling yourself that I'm not worth, I'm not able to do this. Okay, I can't do anymore. So these are the additional signs and symptoms when we talk about complex post-trauma stress disorder. And what is the impact of PTSD? Disrupted memory. So may distort getting and organizing facts. And distorted memory could be on the both sides. It can be on the side of the journalist, and it can be on the side of the subject as well, whom we are going to cover. Okay, disjoint history. So person jumps around in time periods. Okay, problem for both journalist as well as the subject. There are signs of arousal. Okay, hypervigilance. Hypervigilance on small sounds. Okay, you can see it. Or hypoarousal, or you're not aroused. Okay, you are very less aroused on situations, interfering with focus, attention, and concentration. Emotional attunement. So it is compromised in PTSD and can affect engagement with the subject. This is the verbatim of a journalist, Mohammad Yunus. So it is his personal statement. So he has been working a lot in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and he was the one who presented with Dr. Paul in Philadelphia. So he is saying, I'm not going to read his complete statement, but in the statement, you can see that he is saying that he was finally, when he felt all those symptoms and signs, and finally his wife told him that you are physically here, but you are not psychologically here as well. So there is some issue with you. Then he got an insight that I'm not doing well and I'm not being myself. Then he is getting into the therapy for 2 years. Okay, so he was with a therapist. Then finally he start feeling again, in the mainstream. Otherwise, he was very lonely. He would not go into the parties. He would not be social. So he was in seclusion for a long period of time. But he is saying in this statement that these things slowly came accumulated, and consciously he didn't felt that there is something, accumulating within me. Then finally he was suffering from PTSD, and he had to enter into the therapy and worked on himself for 2 years. So how to recognize the signs of burnout? If we talk about the journalists, okay, emotional exhaustion, a state of emotional depletion characterized by feelings of apathy and a lack of motivation. So you lose the sense of purpose. This can lead to disengagement from work and a loss of interest. There is a feeling of depersonalization. It involves a detachment from your subjects and colleagues, creating a sense of emotional distance and a loss of empathy. So empathy is basically, when we talk about empathy in mental health, it's a skill which we learn and use. So this is something which you have to learn by with the time, and you have to get the expertise while not losing the objectivity. So there's a problem with empathizing with people when you are going through depersonalization. Reduced accomplishment. So burnout can lead to a sense of diminished personal achievement, making it different to experience a sense of fulfillment in your work. And journalists, you have to understand that you are very much vulnerable for moral injury. Okay. So what is moral injury? It's a trauma related syndrome which is caused by grievous moral transgressions or violations to individuals' deeply held moral beliefs and ethical standards due to failing to prevent. When you go into the situation, you are covering an event, you fail to prevent what's happening. Okay. You become witness or learning about inhuman acts leading to pain, suffering, or death of others. Okay. You witness all this. So it fundamentally challenges the moral integrity of an individual. Okay. Which can lead to moral injury or subsequent experience and feelings of betrayal of what is right caused by trusted individuals who hold a legitimate authority. There are such feelings as well among journalists, which may lead to moral injury. So there's again a statement from one of the journalists. A difficult thing about being a local journalist on the front line when Northern Ireland on occasion descends into chaos is that while you may have insider knowledge, you have an undeniable lack of distance from the situation. So here we call, if we see it from psychological perspective, there is a dilemma among the journalists. Okay. It is approach avoidance conflict. So you want approach and you want avoid the same thing. Okay. Then it leads to a lot of frustration. Okay. It leads to a lot of confusion. You are a local journalist and you want to cover something, but at the same time you feel yourself you are very much vulnerable in the same situation. And this is the dilemma which many journalists have felt. And there is one more challenge to the journalists, so which is ethical reporting and well-being. Okay, there are certain challenges. For example, you have deadlines. You have to break stories as much quickly as possible. Okay, but at what expense? At the expense of thoroughness and sensitivity. Maybe you are not able to work thoroughly on the story, thoroughly on the situation, and you may remain less sensitive about the population when you have deadlines and when you have to break the stories before any other person breaks the story. So you can imagine that situation. Okay, how it would be for you and how it would be for the people to whom you are going to cover. Okay, there is a culture now which is called macho culture. Okay, in some newsrooms which discourages mental health. Okay, which leads to culture of silence within the profession. So you may have seen certain news rooms, who sensationalize news. Okay, this is what's going to happen as if they are actually on ground, but they are not. They're in the newsroom. Okay, but those people who are on ground, maybe let's talk about a soldier who is on ground. He knows what's happening with him, how much he's under threat, and how much a war journalist is under threat when he is acting the active conflict, okay, somewhere. So we have to understand that this macho culture is basically leading to culture of silence, which may lead to silent suffering of journalists. Lack of adequate trauma training in journalism schools. So journalism schools must have a mental health professional on board, or there has to be a part of curriculum which talks about training in trauma informed journalism, so that they are already prepared. They have some tools with them, when they go into the situation when they are going to talk to the victim. Okay, limited mental health briefings is also another limitation. Our access to counseling and therapy services. No field protection or contractual safeguards for freelancers. So this is very much important to understand for those who are freelancers. They don't have any protective or safeguards for them because they are not, they're not part of any institution. They're not part of any news outlet. They're not part of, the bigger organization. So they are more vulnerable for the impact. Then coming to the self-care, so I have put it in parts. So part one, if we talk about empathy and professional detachment, first thing is preparation. Okay, so you have to do some research in advance, know the context where you are going in, read about it, build relationships within the context, in the context, Talk to people there. Okay, have some support on ground. Consider historical trauma. It's very much important. Give voice to people and be self-aware while reporting on vulnerable areas, where you are going, how the situation is, how people have been reacting in the past. Okay, what are the sensitivities of the context, the village, the family. You have to know all this. Empathy is crucial to connect with subjects and convey stories effectively. So you need to get trained for in the part of empathy, but empathy as a skill, okay, how you can make a proper level of empathy with the person you are talking to or with the group you are talking to without impacting your mental health, because you are the person who is not going to cover one story or one event. You have to go again to such situation tomorrow. You have to go again after a week. You have to talk to such kind of people again. So also at the same time, doing a good work is a protective factor for you. When you feel that I am satisfied, I have done genuine work and I have bring forth the facts, it is a protective factor. If we talk from mental health perspective, you extend empathy to yourself. Empathy is not only to have with your subject, okay, empathy is also for yourself. You have to empathize with yourself. You have to understand and feel yourself, okay. So you have to empathize with yourself as well, because first of all you are humans, then you are journalists, okay. You have emotions. When you go into the situation, emotions kick in. It's very natural, okay. Then regulating those emotions, controlling yourself and bringing the facts. Focus on what you can control and change. So there has to be some level of acceptance about the situation, about the event, what's happening or what has happened. So maybe the context is like that, where such situation is expected or where such situations have been happening. So somehow you have to have some level of acceptance among you that such things may happen again and I have to come and cover it again, okay, as a journalist. So you have to have focus on your technical side as a journalist. So basic purpose of you going into the situation, you are going as a journalist, you are not a therapist, okay. You may not be able to do deep work with the subject. You may not be able to analyze. So you have to have some professional boundaries as well, okay. You have to establish some boundaries. You can go up to some extent, then you have to stop. You may not be able to listen to those details which are not necessary for you, okay. Exercise or physical activity. Bring your body to a calm state once you are back from the situation. Once you are back to home, to your residence, stretch, okay? Take a nap, have coffee, and feel yourself. Or do some physical activity. Go for a walk, go for exercise, okay? Breathe. Sip water, look away, feel yourself. When you are into the situation, in the event, with the person, with the victim whom you are covering, okay? So when you are listening to the person, you can look away to feel yourself that where I am, okay? You can breathe, deep breathe, okay? And feel that breath coming in and going out, inhaling and exhaling, feel that, okay? Look away where you are, okay? Register the surroundings. So when you feel yourself, you may be less vulnerable. Journal. When you come back, write down. Don't write down about the story which you have to cover. Write down about yourself. Write down about your feelings. Write down about your thoughts, how you are feeling right now when coming back from the situation, okay? Sleep. Quality sleep is very much essential for all of us, and for journalists highly essential, because you have to have rest. Because when you sleep, it does not recuperate yourself physically, it gives you mental health wise recreation. It gives you a calm state, okay. You improve, you can refresh tomorrow and then you can write down better, okay. Small breaks. It's very much important to take small breaks. If you're into the situation for hours together, it's not necessary that you continue with your work for hours and hours. You have to take some break. Walk a little for 5 minutes, talk to someone, give a call to your family, talk to your friend. Well, I am here in this situation. I am covering a story. Have a glass of water. Okay. So distract yourself when you are there for a long period of time. Don't force yourself. Okay. Because again, you have to understand that it is not the only one event which you are going to cover. You are going to cover many events. Okay. Like that. So you don't have to force yourself in the pressure of breaking the story as soon as possible, in the pressure of giving novelty. Because at the same time, you have to understand the confidentiality part. You have to understand the part of anonymity. You have to protect your subject as well. So all these things come together. When we talk about the media house, what is their responsibility? Okay, as part of self-care, as part of care to the journalists. So newsroom must be providing support and recognition for what you experience and what did you accomplish. Your accomplishments should be acknowledged. Okay, access to therapy and confidential counseling services. This is something which has to come from the institution. Provide safety and trauma response training. So you have to have basic training, okay, that how to respond in trauma situation. Implement pre and post assignment check-ins. So when you are going in, you have to have check-in. When you are coming out again, check-in. How do you feel? Okay, how was your day? How was the situation? What are your feelings about the situation? Cultivate an open and empathic newsroom environment. Very much important. So newsrooms must not only break the news, they must actually talk to their journalists, the team which is on ground. Okay. They have to cultivate an open and empathic newsroom environment. They have to encourage open dialogue about mental health and stress in the newsroom. Okay, at the institutional level. They have to arrange first aid and PFA. What's PFA? It's psychological first aid training for journalists, which comes from clinical psychologists, okay, which comes from the people who have been working in the community as mental health and psychosocial support specialists, okay. So psychological first aid is a great tool for journalists. You must know it, and you must know how to listen to people, okay? How to refer, okay? How to make them basically comfortable in that situation. And when we talk about the third part of self-care, it is coming from the psychologist or the therapist, okay? And it is part of your training. So you must know what is trauma-informed journalism, okay? It is altogether different from interviewing a powerful figure or a politician. Informed consent with exact information. When you are going to the subject, you are talking to the trauma victim, you have to inform the victim who I am, give complete information about yourself, be transparent, and tell them that I am going to ask these kind of questions. If it is possible, you can basically discuss with your colleague firsthand that I am going to talk about this topic and these are my questions, as that colleague may have been already working in that situation in such kind of events. You can discuss your questions so that you do no harm. Okay, do no harm is a basic key, is a principle here, so that you don't re-traumatize the subject, you don't re-traumatize the victim. So informed consent is very much important. You have to provide a safe space for the interviewees. Maybe someone present in the space whom they can lean on. You have to keep someone around or in the space whom they trust. Okay, if they break down, they start crying, if you don't know the psychological first aid, maybe there is someone around whom they can lean on. You have to take care of this. You have to ask the subject that where you want to get interviewed, and tell them in whatever form they want to they want to come, whatever they want to wear, okay, wherever they want to get interviewed, give them the choice, okay, so that it gives them little control of the situation. They don't feel that victimization, at least from the journalist side, okay. So respect memory lapses, startled responses, as trauma survivors could be the survivors of violence, sexual assault, rape victims, child sexual abuse, domestic violence, natural disasters, or war victims. When a person is having trauma, or if the person has post-traumatic stress disorder, these are the signs. Maybe during your questions, there are startled responses. Okay, there are memory lapses. It can happen with the subjects going through trauma, and it can happen with the journalists as well. So newsrooms and institutions have to understand that our journalist, maybe is having this condition. That's why memory lapses are happening. Okay. Sit back and imagine how the situation could be and prepare accordingly. When you have to go into the situation, you have to understand the situation. Imagine, I'll go today and I'll go like this. Then I have to enter some area which is sensitive, how I should behave, how I should talk, what I should wear. All these things matter for us as humanitarians and for you as journalists. In the international sector, what I have seen, we are very much sensitive from cultural perspective. When we were going into the different communities, be it Eurasia when I was in Ukraine, be it Africa when I was in Nigeria, when we were going into the interiors of the communities, when we were going inside the bush, where multiple parties were acting. So you don't know how much vulnerable you are. You have to take utmost care of the cultural sensitivities, belief system, value system. You have to understand that. Then you have to act accordingly. So briefings and debriefings with your colleagues, very much important. When you have to go into the situation, brief. Okay. Then when you come back, debrief. That is the check-in, which we do at the time of entry and at the time of exit. Consider objectivity and empathy go hand in hand. You have to be objective, but you have to be empathic as well. So you have to strike some balance. Professional support. So if the personal copings doesn't work, if the skills which you have, you are not able to control or regulate your emotions, you feel a lot of distress, then professional support is available. But professional support from the therapist who has these sensitivities, who is himself or herself, trained in the area. For example, a therapist must be aware of journalists' lives in trauma zones. Okay. So therapist has to be sensitive himself. Encourage storytelling as a tool for healing. It is our skill, which we have to have as therapists. So provide trauma-informed holistic care options. We have to provide psychological first aid training to the journalists, okay? And build trust without rushing disclosure. This is a skill with us, and this is a skill which you must have as well, okay? You have to also build the trust with your subject and don't rush into the disclosure. Avoid labeling trauma reactions as personal flaws. So the therapist must not, because there are many pseudos around, okay? There are pseudo psychologists, there are many self-styled therapists. So you have to understand that they must not label you, okay? Because you are going through some condition. They must be able to teach how to regulate your emotions, tolerate the feelings and sensations, because you are working in a very sensitive context. You are covering a sensitive event or situation. They must be able to work on arousal regulation. So you must not be aroused in the situation, because that may backfire as a journalist. If you're into the situation, you have to learn to be calm, composed, and professional. Main takeaways. So building emotional resilience, fostering mental well-being, and managing burnout are crucial for journalists to survive and thrive in their demanding profession. Also, by prioritizing self-care, setting healthy boundaries, practicing stress reduction techniques, and cultivating a growth mindset, journalists can create a more fulfilling experience for themselves and their subjects. Well, that ends my slides. Thank you very much. This is the quote which I would usually have on my last slide in all the presentations which I have in college, universities, or any other institutions. When you do things from your soul, you feel a river flowing in you, a joy. This is said by Rumi, and I believe in this. When we get in the situation and we actually do the deep work, do it from our soul, we feel satisfied. So there is a lot of joy in us. For any other further questions or support in offline or online mode, kindly drop a message in any of the contact numbers, or there is my Instagram and Facebook handle, Aijaz_psychologist. You can get in touch and we can discuss. I'm very much open to questions now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aijaz, for your inspiring presentation and interaction. We really have, I have enjoyed a lot in to learn about your valuable insights and your expertise and thoughtful perspectives that have really enriched this training. And we are really grateful for your time and effort. So yeah, at this point we have uh, opened the floor for questions. So if anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your hand or come forward, and I'm sure Dr. Ejaz will be happy to interact, or any, feedback, any response, could be whatever you want to maybe share an experience. We still have 10 minutes, as we were late 5-8 minutes, so we can give those extra 5-6 minutes. So yeah, please.
Can I just ask something, Aliya?
Yeah, please,
Yes,
Imran, go
please
ahead.
go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Ijaz. I'm extremely sorry I was a little late in your presentation, but the amount that I witnessed was extremely brilliant. So, Dr. Ijaz, my name is Imran. I am from GDC Anantnag. I teach here. I have been a journalist before this. I keep on writing sometimes. So, I think two sets of questions I have, rather observations, and they mainly come from my academic engagement with journalism. First of all, this whole discourse on trauma is dictated by the Euro-Western academic and policy juggernaut, right? So whatever discourse that we fall back on as journalists or academics, it's sad that we don't have any other vantage point than to go back to these, for example, you talked about informed consent and professionalism, right? So in academia, we tend to engage with these concepts in a pretty deeper manner, right? For example, informed consent mein aapne ye bola ki matlab we should give safe space to an interviewee, make them feel comfortable, but we are more concerned about the afterlife of an interview. If we are interviewing as a journalist, if we are interviewing an individual caught in extremely horrible trauma, and that individual gives us the whole sets of data and information, what becomes of that interview later? Because as reporters, we're also we construct reality, right? We are not in the business of only telling the truth. Let's face it, we construct realities. We witness something on the ground and go back to the office or our cafe or wherever we are comfortable writing. Then we construct that trauma and that that encounter with that individual. Is it like informed consent is a shield for a reporter? Because once that victim, or you could call survivor, once that victim or survivor opens up doors to us and shares the information and so on, is it like we're saving ourselves? Because tomorrow we could show to the whole world, look, this is not me saying there was an informed consent. The survivor had said, yes, I'm comfortable doing that. For example, taking pictures. Recently, a picture became very viral, sir, when this Pahalgam incident happened. There was this lady whose husband lay dead, and she was being circulated throughout the world, not only on social media, but Frontline had a very huge picture of her on the cover page. So what becomes of those informed consent, so to speak? Because pretty much we are dictated by these Euro-Western academic and policy these interventions. Number two, sir, the professionalism aspect is deeply linked with the emergence of capitalism in the American empire after the Second World War. There is huge linkage with professionalism, of professionalism with capitalism. So professionalism again has been studied very rigorously in academia, and they speak about the concepts of objectivity as being the strategic ritual of a reporter to safeguard themselves rather than bring reality to the fore and to serve public interest. So what are your opinions on these two sets of observations, sir? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Imran Sahab. To be very open enough, I'll be answering as a mental health specialist. I won't go into the socio-political side of it. So yeah, you know that subject much better as journalists, and you do a lot of analysis. So for me, I would say I can consider two perspectives, that is mental health of viewers and mental health of the subject. When we talk about the informed consent, so I talk about it from the perspective of keeping, the subject informed for his or her mental health, giving them a space, making them feel as part of the conversation, making them feel as part of the control of that situation. Okay, many times you have been working in the city, you have been working in the rural areas. Many times the subjects does not know their rights when they are being interviewed. It is your responsibility to brief them. What rights do you have? Okay, how much you are asking, and where is the thin line where you may be re-traumatizing the person because they feel a kind of pressure to talk about everything, to talk about the minute details which may lead them, to go into the uncomfortable situation, and it also may have impact on you as a journalist, because maybe you are not a therapist. So that is where I talk about the part of consent, informed consent. Give them choice where they want to be interviewed, and beforehand ask them that I am going to ask these kind of questions. Kindly feel free to which question you don't want to answer, or maybe where you want to answer partially, or where you want to come back again after some time. This is my card, contact me, I am available. Okay, so I have talked about the consent from that perspective, safeguarding your and subject's mental health. Coming back to the second question, when you talk about, the academia and most of the research and work coming from West and we implementing here, you have to contextualize as we are contextualizing as therapists. Okay, so basically a therapist who is professionally trained, okay, in the same context is much more better than the therapist who is trained from outside of the context and working in that context. Okay, so basically we have to know the language, we have to know the culture, we have to know the sensitivity, we have to know the belief system. Okay, we have to know the family system, we have to know the previous copings. Likewise the journalists, when you are from the context, you know the context better, you know the sensitivity is better. Otherwise, if you are coming from the outside, you have to read, you have to do the research. Okay, and you have to contextualize what kind of research has been happening from outside. You have to validate it for the local context. That's how I would say for the second part of your question. So somehow you are the best judge of your profession, that how to protect yourself when it comes from the socio-political perspective. So I would like to be very brief here with my second answer.
Yeah, so
I
Pooja,
hope I have answered your question to some extent.
oh, sorry.
Yes, yes, absolutely, sir.
You can
Thank
go
you so
ahead.
much.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Aijaz. So I wanted to ask you a question regarding a topic I had been following, right? So it's about homeless women in Kolkata. So I have done quite a few stories with them, and I wanted to expand my work with them. But one thing I noticed is there is a lot of violence among homeless people, and mostly women have been at the receiving end of that violence. And um, the violence obviously comes from the men mostly. And I have seen, like, even little children, because they grow up in that atmosphere, in that environment. I mean, little children, like 3, 4 year old, they are also so violent with each other. And I also understand, like, some of the constraints of raising children in in an open environment, like, where there are no walls, no boundaries. So once I witnessed, like, this mother hitting her teenage daughter with slippers on her head because she was on the other side of the road talking to some older guys. So I understand the mother's concern. But the thing is, after hearing about stabbing incidents or burning incidents or this casual violence, the wife asks the husbands to take to the children to the school one day, and the husband gets annoyed and hits her in the head so hard that she starts bleeding. So all these instances of casual violence, I mean, it has really affected me, and it was something I wanted to build on the reporting and probably do something more, probably turn it into a book. But because I mean it had impacted my mental health in such a way that I feel so depressed, with the living situation, in the sense the violence coupled with whatever they are like in they're facing on a day-to-day basis. So I have not been able to return to this topic. And, I keep in touch with my sources, but I can't even call them and ask them how they're doing because I'm afraid what I might hear, what new incident has happened. So this is something I want to work on, but I have not been able to return to it because, it has taken a toll on me. So, how do you think I should proceed from now on? Because it is something I have been doing for a while.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pooja ma'am, for asking this question. It's a great question. So I would say there are two things to understand. One is what you can control and change in the situation. You have to understand it. Okay. If they are homeless, well, you're not able to provide them home or homes. Okay. There are certain vulnerabilities of that population which you have to accept. Okay, there could be such situations, there are situations, and what you can what's your objective basically of working with them? Bringing their stories to the common masses, bringing the stories to the authorities, that something could be done. Okay, so there has to be multi-pronged approach if I understand it from that perspective. For example, in international sector, what we would be doing, we were having the coordination meetings after every quarter, 3 monthly. We would sit around, maybe the Red Cross would sit around, there was World Food Program, WHO. Then we were trying to see what each of us can do. Okay, and we don't have to overlap. So likewise, in such situations, when you are doing the work with them, you have to understand first what is the purpose, with which purpose you are working with them, to which authorities you want to bring those stories, and how it is going to impact them. That's one side. Okay, that is what you can do, that's what is in your control, okay, to bring some change. And what you can control in that situation is basically yourself, your mental health. Okay, you have to take care of it. It is definitely impacting you because you have seen a lot of things there. For example, once myself, I had a situation in Africa where a girl was brought to me. She was intellectually challenged. Okay, and she was a minor pregnant mother. So this was a big challenge for me and for my team. They said that, sir, we have a situation, how to go about it, because the girl would not talk. Who did it with her in the IDP? Okay, so she was in the internally displaced person. She was in the camp. It was a difficult and tricky situation for us. Then we had to see it from a different perspective. There was a legal perspective, there was a medical perspective, there was a mental health perspective, what we can do. Okay, so we all came around the table and we discussed that what can be done about this situation, because we have to take forensic team on board. Okay, so seeing it from that perspective, you as a single party, what you can do, your limitations. Okay, so you have to understand the opportunities and challenges while working with those families, okay, who are homeless. And then if we talk about your mental health, definitely you have to prepare yourself, and first part comes acceptance. You have to accept the situation where you are going to be, because if you have chosen this area, you have to understand that you will be seeing a lot of situations like that. Vulnerabilities of women, vulnerabilities of children. Okay, and there could be much more, I can imagine. Okay, then when you are coming back, you're not coming back only with what you have written. You are basically processing that trauma within yourself, as we do, psychologists. When we listen to the grave stories, it's not only listening, it is processing them within ourselves. Then you need to have a support network. You need to have a therapist or a counselor who is trained in the area then to work with you, because this is not the platform where I'll ask you particular questions, because we are public right now. If I am working with you as a therapist, I may ask you many questions. Okay. Then we explore together where are the challenges, how you can improve, and how you can basically get the strength back to go back to those families and start working with them. So we have to understand the purpose, we have to understand the objective, we have to have the acceptance, and we have to see what you can control and change and what you cannot control and change. So the circle will go like this. Then exactly you are in the position to go back and start your work.
Okay, Jahangir.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Dr. Aijaz. Jahangir also wants to ask a question. If you can go quickly, then maybe Kath can ask. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I have a question. I was listening to this conversation and this presentation for Dr. Aijaz. I'm one of the I belong to the team of editors from Greater Kashmir, and I typically and conventionally come from a newsroom. And Dr. Aijaz, you mentioned about that check-in and checkouts when we are in the newsroom, balancing, striking a balance. One has to be objective, but there has to be a balance with regard to the mental approach. See, when we are in the office, when we are in the newsroom, there are a lot of things going in the mind. There are deadlines. It's a kind of the anxiety, the kind of the pressure we have. Sort of, it doesn't come automatically, but it just comes with the work. But you talked about the specialists, therapists, but unfortunately, we don't have such specialists or therapists around who can, maybe once in a week or once in a month, we will have a chat with them, talk with them, de-stress ourselves. We hardly get time. Even we hardly get time to be with the families. So it's very difficult. 365 days, 24/7, the situation is like that. But when you have your own subordinates, you have interns sometimes in your newsroom, you have your fellow colleagues, correspondents with you. They have their deadlines. I am answerable to my executive editor. He's answerable to the chief editor. So it's a chain of, it's a chain wherein we are answerable to each other, and we get very less time to sort of, de-stress ourselves. It hardly, the only source of de-stressing ourselves, to my understanding, is the phone, the social media. Sometimes we scroll things on it. That's it. Beyond that, we don't get much time. I understand it is very important, but within this less space, Dr. Aijaz, how we can manage it, how we can de-stress ourselves with the work, how we can talk with our peer groups, with our colleagues, so that they also get de-stressed, we also get de-stressed, because we don't have. We may have access, there may be people around, but we're caught up in a things, we're caught up in a situation where we can, hardly make it to we don't even get time to socialize with our own people, with our friends, with our relatives, forget going to the specialist or a therapist. So within the newsroom, how can we manage it?
Thank you very much, Jahangir Saab. Well, it's a very much relevant question, and I can understand your situation. Well, there are three things I would like to mention. First, your priorities. If you prioritize only your work, it's your choice. You prioritize only work all the time, 360 days, 24 hours. You have to have some understanding and guideline in the newsroom with the institution, that what institution is doing for your mental health. Okay. Having a clinical psychologist on board, maybe at least once in a month. Okay. To have a group session, to at least listen to you. Okay. How it is happening, what's happening, and I can understand the pressure. So prioritize your mental health. At least you have to have, your schedule in such a way where you take out some time once in a month at least, okay, or bi-weekly. So you can connect yourself with the therapist or the counselor who is sensitized definitely in the area. And second thing is, you may have some time, with your colleagues who are trustworthy colleagues in between. For example, we too, when we were in a pressure situation in the humanitarian sector, what we would do simply to have a coffee break. When you scroll, it will add the stress because you don't know what's coming up next in the scrolling, which is the next reel. Maybe next reel is very much traumatic. Okay. And what is actually happening when you're scrolling, I had to be very open with you. Basically, you are making a pattern. So your brain is getting sensitized. It is releasing the dopamine on scrolling, which is not a good coping. So basically, there is a lot of different stuff coming. So maybe it is making a pattern of having this only as a coping. So you have to have some alternative. You have to replace scrolling with getting out, having a walk outside for 5 minutes or 2 minutes when you are scrolling. So you have to replace it. You have to have a glass of water because at least you get up in between to pee. We have to. So you use the washroom. You can go and say hello to other colleague. Okay. And once you are in your chair, you can sit back like me and you breathe. Feel the breath. Count for 5 when you are breathing in through your nose. Count for 5 when you are holding your breath. Then exhale through your mouth. In Kashmiri, we call it hosh draw. Like that. You have to exhale, take out whole breath. It will give you a break and feel yourself in the chair. Maybe I would like to do this exercise now with all the colleagues who are on board with us, but kindly open your cameras. We can have a little exercise at the end, in which I can teach you how to ground yourself, a little ground exercise which you can do anywhere, wherever you are, in the office, on the car, at home, or covering a story in the situation. So these are certain things which you have to understand, and you must know yourself well in the past how you have been coping. So you will be able to understand, okay, well, I would cope like this, or you can have some little music or whatever you like. You can meditate on the chair where you are sitting. You can close your eyes and imagine yourself in the park which you like. Imagine yourself in the situation or the nature or the scene which you love. There are many things which you can do while you are in the chair, but it is only doing it. When you do it, you will make a habit and your body will give you feedback from time to time. Well, Jangir Saab, you need a break here. Okay. And after that, professionals are available. I'm available whenever you feel like to connect and
Before we
have
do
a
that
deeper
exercise,
discussion.
let me tell you one thing. Like when we are in the newsroom and we're around 6 to 7, 8 editors are sitting in the chair and we have the designers around. You won't believe, like in the mid of the night, we finish the work by mid of the night, 1 in the night, 2 in the night sometimes, and we hardly, the designer who is allocated to me, for example, in 4 5 hours, I may hardly talk to him for 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, what is this? What is this? And even he would be busy with his work. I'd be busy with my work. And when we move to the home, we drive car and we don't know anything else. So it's like that. It's like, but I really want something should happen about it. Like some specialist, some therapist, some psychologist should come and give. We also need some sessions. We
Indeed, indeed.
desperately need it.
Well, your profession is a great profession and you have chosen this profession. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Understand
Yes.
it first. Then the things will fall in line. Okay. Accordingly.
So it was
So
Absolutely.
before we do the
acceptance
exercise.
of the profession, acceptance of the situation. Then we see how we can survive, thrive, and navigate in the situation.
So before we do the exercise, Kathleen, she also has a question. So Kathleen, you can go ahead and ask quickly whatever you want to ask.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm a multimedia journalist based here in the Philippines, and I guess my quick question is that most of the time I deal with a lot of subjects who are traumatized by climate impacts, by displacement, and all of those things, and um most of them inadvertently would disclose things, like they would cry while I do the interview. And I understand, because they rarely have people who talk to them. Like, you go there to talk to them as a journalist, and suddenly they disclose a lot of things, they unload to you. So my challenge has been, how do you address this as a journalist? And I know that you're there to listen to them, and sometimes it's even beyond the story that you're writing on, that they want to share, and then they want to unload, and they feel like, even if you're not a therapist, that's their opportunity because someone is listening to them. And how do I address that? Because I don't want to dismiss their issues. But also, how do I take care of myself after the reporting? I know I have a counselor with every other week. I do counseling just so that I can unload things as a journalist. But I guess you've already shared to Mr. Sophie the small things that can be done, but maybe more on the practical tips of how do you respond to when someone tries to unload so many things on you, and it's not no longer part of the reporting. How do you dismiss it very carefully and very sensitively, that they do not, it's as if you're not just there to extract information from them? Because that's also a guilt that's coming from me, that when I do reportings, after I report on this topic, we leave the people behind, like we don't have contact with them anymore. And that's the guilt that I carry for a decade, that I respond to all of these issues, I reported this all of these issues. These are social reasons that I really value. But at the end of the day, you're a journalist, and they're at the same situation where you started reporting. They're still in poverty, they're displaced, they experience all of these things, and there's the guilt to that. So I feel like, how do you respond to that when you're on reporting? Like, what's the easiest way to talk to them, that you're still not blurring the line of personal, and you're not being too involved in the situation? So I think that's the best way I can frame my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. It's a nice question. I would say there are vulnerabilities from both sides. Okay. Your subject is vulnerable, so are you, because you are covering the story. First of all, as I already mentioned during my presentation, you have to talk clearly about the expectations of the subject. So you have to understand and explain to the subject what is your objective of being there. Okay, what they can expect from you. Have the very much clarity on that. Then only they can understand how much they have to talk. Okay. Second thing is, it is very natural as humans, when we get the opportunity and when we understand the other person sitting across the table or sitting besides us is the one whom I have a trust. So it is natural, the flow will come. So I will talk about my dramas. I will talk about everything. I will talk about my family. I will talk about, financial issues. I will talk about interpersonal relationships. So it's very much natural, because they have to offload. There is someone in front of them who is giving a listening ear, who is actively listening. Okay. So the flow will be there. Then first is expectations from both sides. Second thing is, you have to somehow filter psychologically what is needed for your story and what is not needed. Okay. Though you are there, you are listening to the person, you cannot stop, and don't stop them, because you may not get actually the facts, and it may not remain objective when you will interrupt them during the story, that this part I don't need. No, you don't have to tell it that this part I don't need. That part will come, but somehow you have to filter psychologically. By being there, you're not listening to that part, you're just putting a one little remark on your diary. Okay, this is the personal part, or she's discussing relations. Okay, you just keep it there, pause it psychologically. Okay, don't go into the details of that part. What you need is only you write down, you note down, then you compile. And when you go back, okay, when you are out of the situation, there are many things which you may know already, as you are working with your counselor. Each week you get an opportunity to sit and talk and discuss and offload yourself. The subject has offloaded herself or himself, and then you are offloading, with the therapist or with your counselor. When you already filter certain things in the field with the subject, So half a work is done there. Then you reach back to home, then you must have definitely your own copings, which you may have developed with the time or which you have already within you. Okay, all of us, we have our own copings which we have developed over time. When we were small, and then we were in adults in adulthood, and we know how we usually would get out of the stress which we have. And it depends, where do you feel stress in your body? Some people may have gastrointestinal issues, some people may have racing heart, some people may have burning a heartburn, that feeling, and somebody may feel headache, a lot of headache. And many people have generalized anxiety. They don't know why I am anxious. Okay, because they have accumulated a lot of stress. So then you have to see that part. What copings are there with you? You have to make use of them. Okay, what your counselor has taught you, or you can understand when you go back, you are out of the situation, and sit back and understand that now I'm out of that situation. What I need, you filter that. What you don't need, you drop it. You drop it voluntarily and consciously from the story. Okay. So these are certain things which you can do. Or if there are, maybe we all are vulnerable in a way that we have already gone through a lot of experience in our life. Okay. If there are certain experiences which you have gone through in the past, you have to see the association of those experiences with the current experiences. Then you have to work on those experiences with your therapist. So that would be my answer for this question. That's how you can navigate in that situation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aijaz. We have already exceeded the time, but I didn't interrupt because I have not also psychologically what you just said, sort of the selective, not listening to you. But yeah, the last question is from, I think Mohsin also wants to ask, but she can type. Arifa, we also have Arifa. She also wants to quickly ask that what would be some of the common emotional or behavioral trigger that might indicate that we need to seek support as a journalist.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a great question. So I would say there are psychosomatic complaints you may have, psychological and behavioral. Okay. For example, you feel emotionally numb. You feel lot of psychosomatic complaints, lethargy. You're not able to get up in the morning. You're not able to sleep. There is sleep disturbances. There are flashbacks. Okay. You are reacting than responding to your family members or to your friends or to your colleagues. You feel that I am reacting, anger or aggression. When there is anger, it is psychological. When there is aggression, it is behavioral. That means you are acting on your anger. And also, you may feel disconnected from your work. You may feel less motivated. Okay. You feel less sense of purpose is not there. Okay. You feel like you are not socializing the way you used to socialize. You're socializing less. Usually these things will start coming to you. Maybe you're not able to listen to people. You are interrupting them in between. Okay. Your psychophysical system gives you feedback, in many different ways. You have to understand it. You have to listen to your body. You have to listen to you have to understand your patterns. If there is a change in your behavior in any perspective, if the other person in the family or your colleague or your friend could identify in yourself, well, you don't look the same person. Nowadays, you are little changed. So understand and discuss with them what kind of change they could see in you. So there are many signs and symptoms which can arise when you are accumulating stress for a longer period of time. So there can be bodily reactions, there can be psychological reactions, there can be behavioral reactions. So you have to understand. Or thoughts. There could be repetition of thoughts in mind about something. That means something is not going well. Okay. Or you start thinking negative. There are a lot of negative thoughts, or there is overthinking. So there are many and multiple signs which you can see that these things have started with you. That is the time when you have to seek support.
Aijaz, please, the last one from Mohsin. I know we are really out of time. We have exceeded a lot of time, and I know I'm just going to respect everyone's time. So quickly, just a quick, maybe one-liner answer for this. And then if Mohsena have some other questions, she can just reach out. So the question is, if you have a personal connection with the story, I mean, for example, Panktam, maybe one is vulnerable at the moment, and how to deal with that and cope. As there was one of the situations, I self-isolated myself after returning from an assignment.
Personal connection, you have to define first personal connection. Okay, so what kind of personal connection you have with the story? Because sometimes, as journalists, there is somebody known to you who has gone through a situation. Okay, there sometimes we feel like we're not able to remain very neutral and impartial. We could be partial because we are humans. Okay, we may feel like taking the side of the victim, okay, or the person who has gone through the situation. So you have to understand first the personal connection with the story. Then you have to see the purpose why you are there, and who are you actually. You are a journalist, and what is your exact work, there in that situation. And for example, the objective of you is to report the facts in such a way which won't impact the subject negatively, because you're not there to protect the subject all the time. And at the same time, your self-protection and your mental health. So this goes in line with what I already answered to one of the colleagues, that you have to see the opportunities and challenges. What are the opportunities to help the subject, and what are the challenges, what is not in your hands? So definitely there are other actors around who would be able to help. Maybe you become a kind of bridge there. Okay, as a journalist, you may be kind of bridge to get the support or help for the subject, but maybe you may not be the person who can directly support, because in many situations I have seen in Africa, they would expect even from the journalists some money or food or some support. Okay, so then you have to be very clear with what intention you are there, what is your exact work, and how you can bridge the resources which are available around in the context for the person. But definitely, I can understand you could be touched personally with the story, because we are humans, we all are humans, we have emotions. Okay. And there are interpersonal relationships. You may be very much touched with the story, you may develop a relationship, but you have to see whether you are able to support directly, or how you can bridge, or how you can make a support network for the person which you want to help or who are very close to you.
Thank you, Dr. Aijaz. So yeah, we can quickly do the exercise and then we can wrap up.
Okay. So kindly open your cameras if you are comfortable, and be with me in the moment. Okay, we have certain other people. If you are comfortable, kindly open your cameras. Great. So wherever you are staying, in whatever position you are right now, okay, first of all, feel yourself on the chair, on the floor, on the tool, or if you are sitting down on the carpet, feel your body where it is touching the ground. Okay, keep breathing normally. Feel yourself in the room, in the space where you are. Okay, now look around and tell me which 5 things you can right now around you. Anybody can go ahead. Am I audible?
I can
Yes,
go.
Shubham.
Yes, please go ahead.
I see a box of tissues, sanitizer, a paper mache container, a water bottle, and my comb.
Okay. Kindly, all of you, touch 4 things which are around you. Touch them with the hand. Touch the 4 things.
Go ahead.
Great. Now tell me the three things which you can listen to right now. Any one of you. Anybody can volunteer, or two colleagues can speak about.
Here's a fan.
Fan. Okay, that's one. Second.
There is raining over here right now. Yeah. I
Okay.
can hear the droplets noise. So, yeah.
Okay. Third thing. You can listen to me.
Yeah.
So if I'm audible, you can listen to me. You can listen to the traffic which is going outside. You can listen to other colleagues or other people who are talking, in the other room or outside. Okay. Now tell me the two things which you can smell right now, wherever you are. Imran Saab, tell me which two things you can smell.
सर अभी मैं सेब ही खा रहा था तो इसका स्मेल आ रहा है.
Great.
और there is a lot of dust around in my office, so there is a
That
dust as well.
smell of the dust. Okay.
जी जी.
Cool. Kathleen, can you
And a
tell
bit
me
of
which two
perfume.
things? Okay. From Arifa Ghani, she can smell the coffee. And Kathleen, can you smell something around you? Okay, meal. Nice. And usually you have a nice meal there, I have tasted your food. Great. And one thing which, okay, paint. Napurji, you can smell the paint right now. And which one thing you can taste right now? This I'm going to ask.
Ginger ale.
Huh?
Ginger ale.
Okay, great. Anybody else? What you can taste? Jahangir Saab, you can taste the apple. I can understand.
I
Saliva.
just had roasted peanuts. I'm
Great,
tasting that. Yes.
great. Can you feel the texture of the peanut? Can you feel which side of the mouth you are chewing it and how it is, in your mouth? You're crushing it. Can you feel that right now?
It's very good in taste.
Okay,
Mix of salt and mix of sweetness, both.
great. Cool, cool. Yeah. So we can taste our saliva, okay? And we feel it. So when I was asking you about these 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where were you? आपको क्या लगा? आप कहाँ पे हैं? किसके
I
साथ
was
हैं?
connected with you. I was connected with you.
Okay, great. And during this time, when we were discussing about this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do you feel you had something else in your mind?
Not at all.
Okay. So this is one of the basic and simple techniques of grounding wherever you are. Basically, to be away from the psychological pain and stress, the key is to be in the present. And this is one of the very small exercises to be in the present, to be away from what you have been thinking, the overthinking or the negativity, or when you have secondary things coming to you. So Kathleen, thank you very much. You are saying this was so helpful. Kindly repeat it whenever you need it, wherever you are, in
एजाज
which
साहब,
situation.
इसमें एक दिक्कत ये आती है कि जब हम घर जाते हैं तो वहां तो अपना मोमेंट कभी आता ही नहीं है. बच्चे होते हैं अराउंड, दे डोंट लेट यू बी. तो ऑफिस में भी थोड़ा काम करना पड़ता है. तो फिर क्या करें हम, मतलब इन दिस रूटीन? नहीं, ऑनेस्टली इट्स अ वेरी ऑपरेशनल क्वेश्चन. दिस इज
Okay.
अ वेरी ह्यूज कंसर्न.
Well, you have to have some time for yourself. That's you have to make your schedule yourself, and you have to see कि आप कहाँ पे वक्त चुराएंगे अपने लिए. 10 मिनट, 5 मिनट, 15 मिनट. जब वॉक के लिए जाएं तो फोन मत ले जाएं ना साथ. फोन को डेलिबरेटली घर में छोड़ दीजिए. जब वो कॉल करेंगे बोलना घर में छूट गया था फोन. Then be with the nature, be with the things which are around. When you walk, register things. मेरे इर्द गिर्द क्या है? बिल्डिंग्स हैं, पेड़ हैं, रास्ता है, गाड़ियां आ जा रही हैं. Don't analyze, just register. मेरे अराउंड क्या है? That will keep you in the present moment. Okay. Okay, great. So, Aliya ji, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and it was really great to be with all the colleagues, and it was a nice interaction exchange. I hope we will be interacting more in future.
Yes.
So, I'm available whenever you feel my need, kindly connect with me. So, I'm there. Thanks a lot for the great opportunity.
Thank
Aliya ji,
you,
back.
Dr. Bhat, and thank you so much, Aliya,
Thank
for
you.
organizing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was really much needed and very insightful from Dr. Aijaz. And I wish events, seminars, webinars like this should happen very frequently. It was really quite cheering for me personally. I don't know about other, but it was quite cheering for me. I really enjoyed it. And honestly speaking, the smile, it was not, it was just natural that, those smiling moments came out. I don't know. I hardly get to smile with the people. So I wish moments like this should happen repeatedly. I would urge and request the organizers to have these such kind of frequent sessions. In fact, to create a WhatsApp group wherein we can be more communicative with each other, because it has become quite easier to interact on the WhatsApp when we are planning something, or maybe somebody has something. Maybe we can get in touch virtually with each other sometimes to talk about de-stress ourselves, but events like this should happen. And I would
Yes, I
request.
agree. I agree with Jahangir Saab, because we are mostly discussing stories and work. I mean, not what goes on behind that work. We are constantly talking about stories and work and this and that. So this was a nice getaway from it all.
Yeah. So yeah, Jahangir sir, responding to your question, we already have a WhatsApp group and we are like in touch for almost now past a year, Pooja, no? But yes, as it's a great suggestion that Pooja has just mentioned, which is ki we all the time just talk about work, sources, fellowship, opportunities. That's like on our head 24/7, because this has become a part of us, our routine. As Jahangir sir was saying initially, that we don't feel like we are even you know worth of talking anything else other than our work. So that's we have chosen, as Ajasa was saying, it's our priority. But yes, definitely we'll be focusing more on basically this today's session was just also a test to see like how much people are interested to talk about their self-care, mental health. So definitely, inshallah, going forward we'll be doing such events. But yes, Jahangir Saab, you can join our WhatsApp group. We'll share the details, but all you need to is to have registered with Women Freelancers Collective, and then you'll be routed to to our WhatsApp group and other opportunities, because we have frequently interactions, like sometimes one-on-one, sometimes between the groups, between the members. So this is an ongoing process. Inshallah, other members know about it already. So those who haven't, I'll share the details and everything else. But yeah, you can expect, you can expect such events. Maybe I can't promise anything, but maybe offline as well, online as well. So this is something on our mind. But yes, your feedback will be appreciated. And yes, thank you again, everyone in Aijaz Saab. Really appreciate it. And I really too enjoyed this session, and look forward to such events, inshallah, in the future as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.